Welcome to Gaston County Schools mCLASS Reading 3D Implementation Training session. Your contacts to support you and answer any questions you may have concerning mCLASS Reading 3D are myself, Shannon Hullett, Bethany Jacobson, Amy Bowles, and Melissa Buchanan. At any time, if you have any concerns or questions, please feel free to contact us. What is mCLASS Reading 3D? It is a validated, research-based assessment that combines what educators want, and that is a quick way to assess early literacy skills. It's an ongoing assessment that provides everything needed to screen, diagnose, and provide individualized instruction for all students in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. And it is also required by law, and that law is called NC Read to Achieve. We are going to take some time and look at this new law that took effect in July 2012. The goal of NC Reads to Achieve is that the state of North Carolina wants to ensure that every student is reading at or above grade level by the end of 3rd grade. This assessment tool is going to provide a tool to help us ensure that we are meeting students' needs in order to help them read at and above grade level. There are some critical policy understandings that we want to talk to you about today. One of those is just understanding that the State Board of Education had to approve a diagnostic assessment system that would be used in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade to benchmark and progress monitor. It is in accordance with the State Board policy. That diagnostic assessment system is mCLASS Reading 3D. Another critical policy understanding that we want you to be aware of is that teachers and administrators are required to analyze the data results and use that to adjust instructional practices and schedules in order to meet the individual needs of all students. For 3rd grade students, a key component to this law is a 3rd grade student portfolio. The state is developing the contents of the 3rd grade portfolio according to the requirements in the Read to Achieve law. The content of the portfolios is being developed by NC TOPS. They will be finished by September 1st, 2013. Portfolio contents for 3rd grade students will start at the mid-year of the student's 3rd grade year. The content of the portfolio is based on the 3rd grade standards. It will include very specific samples from the standards, and it will also include student summary reports of progress monitoring from mCLASS Reading 3D. After each benchmarking period, the school shall provide the parent of every student in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade with a report that explains how the student did on the specific assessment. This is called the Home Connect letter, and you will be learning about how to access that Home Connect letter. As part of the Home Connect letter, there are instructional support activities for parents to be able to use at home to support the needs of their students. The Department of Public Instruction shall support the implementation of the State Board of Education approved formative and diagnostic system and report to the State Board of Education in August of each year. So we are being monitored, and the fidelity of using this assessment tool is going to be looked at from the state. So how will mCLASS Reading 3D help teachers? It's going to serve as the universal screener for MTSS, which is multi-tiered system of support. It serves as the Gaston County Schools kindergarten through 3rd grade literacy benchmark for the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year. It is a tool that teachers can use to progress monitor students in literacy. It will inform instruction to help teachers better meet the needs of their students. It is one tool to help form reading groups. The basic early literacy skills are the foundations of reading. They are what students rely on to become a proficient reader. mCLASS Reading 3D is aligned and assesses these basic early literacy skills. What are the basic early literacy skills? Phonemic awareness, phonics, accurate and fluent reading of connected text, reading comprehension, vocabulary, and language skills. These skills are predictive of reading acquisition and subsequent reading achievement. The acquisition of these skills improves outcomes of children in schools. We will define each skill and then match each measure to its corresponding literacy skill. Phonemic awareness is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate individual sounds, phonemes, and spoken words. The ability to hear and use sound in spoken words is critical for reading success. Phonics. Phonics is the system of letter-sound relationships that is the foundation for decoding words. It requires letters to print. It's taught with the eyes open. Dibble's next distinguishes between basic phonics and advanced phonics and has a different measure for each. NWS, nonsense word fluency, and DORF. Phonics is an umbrella term for the alphabetic principle, which is frequently referred to as sound-symbol correspondence, that printed letters correspond to sounds. Basic phonics, knowing the most common sounds of consonants and vowels and sounding out simple, phonetically regular VC and CVS words. Advanced phonics, an extension of basic phonics, including skills such as reading combinations of letters like digraphs, blends, vowel teams, trigraphs, etc., and understanding the way the position of the letters in a syllable or word affects the sounds and knowledge of prefix and suffixes. Word attack skills are also a part of phonics instruction. The approach to pronouncing and knowing the meaning of a word through the application of phonics, the use of context, and the knowledge of morphology. Accurate and fluent reading of connected text is the ability to read a text accurately and quickly with automaticity. This influences the student's ability to comprehend text. We often say that fluency is the bridge to comprehension. Students' confidence grows as they begin to recognize words and recall them quickly. Reading comprehension is the cognitive process involving the intentional interaction between reader and text to convey meaning. It's the reason for reading. It's the ultimate goal. It's taught through explicit instruction of strategies. If readers read the words but do not understand what those words mean, they do not read really well at all. When students don't struggle to recall words, they can then focus on the meaning and the details of what they are reading. And vocabulary and language skills, this is the ability to understand and use words to acquire and convey meaning. The development of vocabulary is the process of discerning meaning from spoken language and or print. Vocabulary is the use of words we know to communicate effectively, whether by listening, speaking, or reading. mCLASS Reading 3D allows us to assess these early literacy skills and pinpoint students' specific strengths and weaknesses so we can help them become proficient readers. There are 6 Dibble measures: LNF, FSF, PSF, NWF, DORF, and DAYS. There are 2 early literacy diagnostic measures, the TRC plus word recognition. And all these measures together equal a balanced approach to reading assessment. What do those acronyms mean? LNF is letter naming fluency. FSF is first sound fluency. PSF is phoneme segmentation fluency. NWF is nonsense word fluency. DORF is Dibble's oral reading fluency. DAYS is a comprehension measurement. And then there's 2 early literacy diagnostic measures. The TRC is text reading and comprehension, and WR is word recognition. These are the different assessment measures that are a part of mCLASS Reading 3D. Now that we have gone over all the foundations of reading and briefly discussed the assessment measures, take a few minutes and see if you can connect the appropriate assessment measure to the specific early literacy skill that it assesses. If you would like to try this activity, go ahead and pause the video and start it back when you are ready. Let's check and see how well you did. Phonemic awareness. First sound fluency and phoneme segmentation fluency, FSF and PSF, are the measures that you will use to assess phonemic awareness. Remember, phonemic awareness is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate individual sounds, phonemes, in spoken words. First sound fluency and phoneme segmentation fluency assess phonemic awareness. For FSF, students identify initial sounds. For PSF, you break words into single sounds. It's a crucial preliminary step students need to help them identify all the sounds within a word. Let's look at phonics. Nonsense word fluency, NWF, Dibble's oral reading fluency, DORF, and word recognition, WR, are the assessment measures that you will use to help you assess phonics. Remember, the alphabetical principle is the systematic and predictable relationship between written letters and spoken sounds. Phonics is the system of letter-sound relationships that is the foundation for decoding words. Nonsense word fluency, NWF, assesses the alphabetic principle and basic phonics. Nonsense word fluency uses the consonant-vowel consonant and vowel consonant words and their connection to phonemes or individual sounds. To accurately assess the student's knowledge of sounds, we use nonsense words that student cannot identify by sight alone. If real words were used in this measure, you would never know if the student recognized the word from previous experience or used their sound symbol knowledge to sound out the word. Dibble's oral reading fluency, DORF, assesses advanced phonics and word attack skills. DORF provides a text that students read for 60 seconds, during which time the assessor marks the errors. Knowing all the sounds for letters and letter combinations allows students to accurately and automatically sound out written words. The Early Literacy Diagnostic ELD measure, word recognition, also assesses the alphabetic principle. Students read high-frequency words in isolation. Some high-frequency words on the word recognition list are decodable. For example, up can be decoded. Up is up. Accurate and fluent reading of connected text. The Dibble's oral reading fluency, DORF, text reading and comprehension, TRC, and word recognition are the assessment measures that you will use to assess accurate and fluent reading of connected text. Remember, accurate and fluent reading of connected text is the ability to read a text accurately, quickly, and with automaticity. Dibble's oral reading fluency, DORF, assesses accuracy and fluency. DORF component oral reading fluency provides connected text the student reads for 60 seconds, during which time the assessor marks the error. The mobile device calculates fluency and accuracy rates. TRC assesses accuracy for all reading records. TRC assesses fluency when the reading record is set to start time administration. Word recognition also assesses accuracy and fluency. Students read high-frequency words in isolation. Some high-frequency words on the word recognition list are irregular, and therefore students must learn them by sight. Let's look at reading comprehension. Dibble's oral reading fluency, DORF, Dibble's maze, days, and the text reading and comprehension, TRC, are the measures that you will use to assess reading comprehension. Remember, reading comprehension is the cognitive process involving the intentional interaction between the reader and the text to convey meaning. DORF component retail fluency assesses comprehension. DORF retail fluency provides a comprehension check by asking a student to tell everything you can about the passage read. DORF retail fluency is eye-opening. Students' use of language and sequence tells a great deal about their ability to understand the connected text. Dibble's Maze or DAYS also assesses reading comprehension. DAYS is based on Maze procedures. DAYS assesses the student's ability to construct meaning from text using word recognition skills, background information, and prior knowledge, familiarity with linguistic properties such as syntax and morphology, cause and effect, and reasoning skills. Students read a passage silently and circle the word choices from 3 choices. The TRC also assesses comprehension. Students must complete 1 or more follow-up comprehension tasks for the system to generate a reading level. Vocabulary and language skills. The text reading and comprehension, TRC, is the assessment measure you will use to assess vocabulary and language skills. Remember, vocabulary is the ability to understand and use words to acquire and convey meaning. TRC assesses vocabulary in that students must understand the words in the text in order to acquire meaning from it. Those are the basic early literacy skills. L&F is not directly related to one of the basic early literacy skills, but it is a reliable indicator of risk. In the same way that a thermometer is an indicator of health, L&F is an indicator of future reading success. Students identify capital and lowercase letters in isolation. The Dibble's next measures at every grade level can be correlated to the Common Core standards. The standards shown on the slide are examples. It is not an exhaustive list. There are 2 types of assessment options: benchmarking and progress monitoring. Benchmarking is done for all students in kindergarten through grade 3. There are multiple measures depending on the grade level. It is done 3 times a year, and it informs you as to who and when you will need to progress monitor. Progress monitoring is for high and some risk students. Progress monitoring is frequently. All students will be progress monitored quarterly. It serves the purpose of evaluating instructional effectiveness, and we have set, with North Carolina's guidance, parameters for progress monitoring. For the 2013-2014 school year, Gaston County Schools has set the following benchmarking windows for kindergarten through 3rd grade. The beginning of the year benchmarking window is August 26th through September 16th. The middle of the year benchmarking window is January 2nd through January 27th. And the end of year benchmarking window is May 5th through May 23rd. These 3 windows will consist of 15 days. You will have 15 days to assess all students on all grade-specific assessments. Each benchmarking window for each grade level has specific assessments that must be administered. In the following tutorials, you will take a deep dive into those assessments and learn about the assessments that apply to each specific grade level. Please understand, you will need to have a plan for when you will assess your students. In order to assess all students within the 15-day window, you will need to assess some students each day. For example, in a classroom of 30 students, I will need to assess at least 2 students per day to finish in the time span. Kindergarten teachers are encouraged to start assessments during the phase-in days at the beginning of the year during the beginning of the year benchmarking window. This chart indicates when to assess each measure. Word recognition, WR, is intended for students with TRC instructional reading levels A to E. As you can see, depending on the time of year and the grade level, different assessment measures will apply to each specific grade level. Approved accommodations are unlikely to affect how the assessment functions. The student's score can be reported and interpreted as an official score. Unapproved accommodations, giving directions in the student's primary language, giving the measure untimed, may change the meaning or the interpretation of the score. Use accommodations only for students who need them. If unsure, assess using standardized directions and procedures first. Reassess with accommodations if needed. TRC accommodates timed or untimed reading records. If you have questions about accommodations, please work very closely with your EC support staff. The color-coded benchmark goals represent odds and likelihood. If a student achieves a benchmark goal, the odds are in favor of the student achieving later reading outcomes. A benchmark goal is the lowest level of performance on a measure that predicts reaching the next goal. It's comprised of 3 parts: a basic early literacy skill, a level of performance, and a point in time. It's based on research examining how a score on a measure at a point in time predicts later reading outcomes. How do you use the benchmark goals? To predict which students are likely to need more support, to establish meaningful targets for intervention and instruction that will change the future for students, and use it as a framework for evaluating system goals and outcomes as well as individual goals and outcomes. The TRC proficiency level identifies instructional reading levels. We are looking to identify what is that instructional reading level for each individual student so that we can support them and move them forward as a reader. Book levels are color-coded: red, yellow, green, blue, to reflect grade level expectations. Color-coded levels for the TRC begin at the end of year in kindergarten. At the beginning of the year and at the middle of the year in kindergarten, levels will display in black. This completes the introduction and overview session for mCLASS Reading 3D. This, I hope, provided you with a quick snapshot of what is mCLASS Reading 3D and how it is aligned to the basic early literacy skills. We encourage you to continue and take a deep dive into the assessment measures by watching the tutorials for each specific assessment measure. Thank you.